Okay, so today we are going to be, this lesson we are going to be looking at 11.2, how is light produced? Okay, light enters our eye from all objects you see. And objects are broken up into either luminous objects or non-luminous objects, and we're going to talk about that later on. But here's an object of a stop sign, okay, and we can visualize the stop sign because this object reflects light in from the sun or from a light bulb or from a luminous object of some sort, okay, reflects light into our eyeballs, okay, and this would be a lens right here, and your eye has a lens in it, um, and it kind of bends the light back so that the object, the stop sign in this case, actually is projected on the back of our eyeball, known as the retina. Okay, then we have an optic nerve that attaches to the back of the eye here, and that optic nerve sends this image to the brain, and the brain then flips it upside down, and we actually see this image of a stop sign. Okay, it's a really, really complex process, and it really happens very, very fast in our eyes. So obviously, we see things in real time. So this process happens extremely quickly. Okay, but all objects are either luminous or non-luminous. Okay, in that they produce their own light or they do not produce their own light, and this is how our eyes actually see it. Okay, there are two ways that you see objects, and I've kind of talked about this. One is a luminous object, so they give off their own light, and this would be an example of the sun. The sun is able to give off its own light, so it's a luminous object. And the second is the second is a non-luminous object, and we'll talk about that in a second. Okay, but how do luminous objects actually give us light? Well, luminous objects give off light because their electrons absorb energy and get excited. Okay, and this right here, these images might kind of remind you of grade 9, the Bohr-Rutherford diagram, because that's pretty much what they are. We have the proton here, we have our outer shell, we have our shells here, our inner shell, our outer shell, and we have electrons that fill these energy shells appropriately. Okay, and at ground state, or when they're not excited or anything like that, you would expect that the electrons would be in the appropriate shell that they need to be in. Okay, moving from the inside to the outside. Well, what happens is sometimes, okay, in luminous objects, what happens is that a luminous object gets some sort of energy, a big jolt of energy. Okay, and this energy could be in the form of heat, it could be in the form of electricity, but it gets energy. And what happens is that this electron gets so excited, it says, yo, I want to jump up to the next shell up. Okay, so it jumps up to the next shell. Okay, once it's up to the next shell, it has to come back down to its original shell. So it jumps up to the next shell, and then it comes back down to its original orbit. Okay, and that coming back down to its original orbit is what actually causes light to be released. Okay, and in the form of energy waves or radiation. Okay, and that's what actually causes the light is the jumping back down to its original orbit, not the moving up to its excited state. Okay, so when energy source is removed, the absorbed energy is then released as light as the electrons move back down to its outer shell. Okay, and that's what a luminous object is, and that's how a luminous object produces its own light. Very simplified explanation, but that's basically how it happens. Okay, the second type of object that we interact with and that we see are non-luminous objects. And mostly everything that we encounter are non-luminous objects. If you look at your tablet, non-luminous object. You're looking at your textbook, a non-luminous object. The desk is a non-luminous object. My coffee cups, non-luminous objects. Okay, these objects do not produce any light by themselves. Okay, in fact, they reflect light. Okay, so light is released either from the sun or some sort of luminous object. It travels in a straight line. It hits, say, the page of a textbook, and we see the reflected rays back at our eyes. Okay, and we see that, and that's what we're looking at. Okay, it's not that the textbook is releasing light, it's actually reflecting light back into our eyes, and we're observing that light that is being reflected off of the textbook or off of the chair or off of the table. Okay. Um, and that's the lesson for this morning. Okay, so I want you to see the worksheet methods of producing light. This is going to go over all the ways that light is produced. Um, and then I want you to do homework page 476, numbers 2 to 10. Okay, let's just look at this. I'm going to switch my screen here. Okay, and I want you to look at this, what this chart actually looks like. So here's the screen. Let me just extend it a little bit. Okay, this is what your screen's going to look like. Um, and really what you're going to be doing is you are going to be referring to the textbook pages 470 to 478. You're going to look at the luminous sources of light. You're going to read through the luminous sources of light. And I want you to create a brief summary in your own words how this light works. Okay, you can then go to the internet and find a diagram of this light and an example of that light. For yourself and for your own reference. When we meet later on, we will talk about all these forms of light and discuss them in a little bit more detail. Okay, so for now, I want you to work on the worksheet methods of producing light, pages 470 to 478. Once you finish that, you can then start working on your homework, which is on page 476, numbers 2 to 10. Okay, so that is what you're going to be working on right now, and we will discuss it in more detail in a little bit. Okay, we'll chat later.